Welcome to the Tomorrow's World Today podcast. We sit down with experts, world-changing innovators, creators, and makers to explore how they're taking action to make tomorrow's world a better place for technology, science, innovation, sustainability, the arts, and more. In this episode, George Davison, who is also the host of Tomorrow's World Today on the Science Channel, talks with the founder and CEO of Intellihot, Sri Deivasigamani, about how his company is revolutionizing water heating in a smart, sustainable way. Sri discusses how the company's on-demand water heating technology learns your habits, reduces wait times, and cuts costs.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tomorrow's World Today. And to my pleasure, we get to speak with, and I'm going to say, it's sometimes hard to get everybody's names pronounced correctly. So, Sri, if you could introduce yourself and, give us your full name and the name of the company that you're with.
Sure. Nice to meet you, George. My name is pronounced Sri Deivasigamani, and I just go by Sri. And interestingly, where I come from, you adopt your dad's first name as your last name. So Deivasigamani is actually my dad's first name.
Ah, that's great. All right. And you're with what company?
So I work at Intellihot, a company I founded and started. There's a big backstory to how it got started, but that's what I am.
We are very anxious to hear, that background of how this company got started. I'm a little already in the loop on how this got started, but this is like like one of those things that happens to an inventor is something just goes absolutely wrong, and then why is it like that? Why can't we make that better? And so, could you run us up to speed? I mean, how did this organization, this company come to be?
Actually, the story goes back long ways. I can give you an abbreviated version. Ever since I was a child, I was very attuned to energy. And part of it, I think, comes from, I had sort of two lives molded into one. Part of my grandparents, they were farmers. So I grew up in a very rural environment. Mm-hmm. And then my dad worked for a big company. And so it was very developed. And then I could see the dichotomy of both of these. And so I was very aware of, how important energy is, water is, how we are all interconnected. So that drive was always there. For example, when my dad would drive his motorcycle, when he would go downhill, I would say, hey, why don't you shift into neutral? Because, you don't need to, waste gas. Or I would ask him, hey, where does this stuff come from? Petroleum. And, he said, yeah, it comes from the ground. And then the word petroleum literally translates to rock oil, right? So I knew from a very young age the stuff's going to run out. I mean, how much stuff can be there, right? It's finite. And so, I pursued, a degree in engineering, which was my, passion. And I tried a bunch of stuff in life. I worked for a really nice company, Caterpillar, doing all kinds of new products and innovations. But I always had a side gig. My first company had to do with LED lights. I'm a mechanical engineer, but I had developed an LED light that was super efficient, 25 years ago, because I couldn't stand incandescent light. So while I was trying to figure out what my true calling in life is, a water heater broke and flooded my house. And this was my first house, and I had just come back after a very long flight from India, go down to the basement, it's flooded. And so I was quite shocked, because when I bought the house, I just saw this big cylinder, and I saw two pipes, one going in, one coming out. I thought, it must just come on when I open the faucet. Only when it leaked and flooded my house did I realize how, we keep it on 24/7. There's a lot of waste. And so I just couldn't stand wasting that energy. And at the time, I was building a smart motorcycle. And my weekend project was I wanted to smartify my own water heater, make it come on demand, make it more intelligent. So that's where the journey started.
I see. There's a whole host of issues around the issue of when your hot water heater goes down. So, I don't think Sri's the first guy to come home and find out that the water heater's gone broken and leaked everywhere. And so you were working on, you're naturally a problem solver. I think that's fair to say because of your prior work you were inventing and creating things at Caterpillar. And you were working on LED technology to make a better product than fluorescent lights. So, as a creator, innovator, It just seems to come natural to you. Do you consider yourself as an inventor? Is that your job now at the company as a founder? But are you also the inventor, engineer behind the scenes making it happen?
I don't think of myself as an inventor, although I develop and I come up with a lot of stuff. Growing up, I think my mom used to call me that, a tinkerer and an inventor. So I think the accolade should go to her for raising a child who was super confident. But certainly, I like solving problems. I like to work with a group of people who are driven to a common mission, solve really tough problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think being curious and having that curious nature to look into things it's a very compelling life that you have the opportunity to spend some time of your life in that area. It can be quite fun.
It is. Yeah, I think that real trick is to really find out what is meaningful in life. And everybody on the planet has a talent. Everyone can do what the greatest person does. It is just finding that and then really going full steam towards that. I think we all get saddled. We got to put a roof over our heads and we got to make a little bit of money. Feed our kids, all this stuff. But it would be great if everyone found their calling in life and worked on it, because the world would be so much better.
I couldn't agree more. That's very well said. Let's talk a little bit about your company. Let's call it like the research process. Let's say that an idea is developed. What kind of a role does research play before you commit lots of resources to the development of something?
Mm-hmm. At a very basic level, you have to identify a problem. And it has to be a problem that is very meaningful and to somebody. In the case of hot water, for example, we serve the commercial industry. So that's hotels, hospitals, restaurants, schools, stadiums, senior living. If these businesses don't have hot water, they immediately have to shut their business, like the same day, within a few hours. And if you're talking a place like McDonald's, they lose hundreds of thousands of dollars a day because, by health code regulation, they got to shut down. The business model for a hotel is a clean bed and hot shower. And if they can provide that, people, if you look at the reviews, the studies have shown that if they get one bad review, the occupancy rate goes down by 50% for the next 6 months. So this stuff has a direct impact. So first is find a problem that is very meaningful to somebody, solve the problem, and then you can sell them the solution. And the one caveat to that is whatever problem you're solving, it would be great if your purpose in life is aligned with it, because then you tend to go at it, because some of these things are very difficult to solve. Water heating, for example, there's an interesting backstory. We as human beings, we haven't showered that long. It's only been since the Industrial Revolution, so call it 150, 175 years. Before that, just as an anecdote, the French invented the perfume, so you could mask the smell. And a lot of people got married in spring carrying a bouquet because they would smell nice. If you were super rich, you took a bath maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So the process of industrialization started providing creature comforts, heat in our homes, domestic hot water, piped water, and so it's very, very recent. Several technologies have improved and have really advanced in the last 150 years. But unfortunately, water heating, which kind of sits hidden behind and consumes as much as 40 to 50% of a building's energy. I mean, if you have an apartment building, nearly 40% of your energy goes to water heating. So they sit and consume a lot of energy, but the technology for that is relatively the same as it was 150 years ago. So, it's a tough thing to solve because it sits behind and it kind of works for a while. And so it tends to get ignored.
I think it's important we start let's reverse engineer a little bit what Intellihot's doing. Let's talk about the innovation and invention of what's been created. And, and I think we should probably start with, we have instant hot water heating now, and we have these canistered devices in our basements. We heat all this water, and it stays hot all day, and we might only need it for 20 minutes a day, but yet we are running the gas bill up. I can see the inefficiency of how we are heating and storing water in our homes. The rise of instant hot, that was a while ago. And for those of you who don't know what instant hot, that means you're just heating water on demand. You're not storing it. So you have a demand, you turn the water on, the machine turns on, and you get hot water. For the most part, I'm trying to keep this pretty simple. So let's go to where we are now with Intellihot. Can you talk a little bit about what is the technology that is going to provide a more sustainable, more environmental, more efficient, are we talking better quality, less breakdown? Can you run me up to speed and our audience up to speed of why is this new form of technology so important?
So, going back to the previous question you asked, right? How do we think about the problem here, which I personally experienced? First off, it wastes energy. Second is, when I go to the bathroom and I open the faucet, it takes about 45 seconds. That's a lot of time of good, clean, treated water coming into a house that's going down the drain. And so I quickly did some math. I called a bunch of friends. I found that everybody waits, 45 to a minute and a half. And it turns out like a small city the size of, let's say, 150,000 people, every day, this is happening in the United States today, they waste about 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools just waiting for water to get there. And then you kind of add up the number of seconds we all spend. It turns out to be about 6 months of a lifetime. Human beings are super clever, right? While the water is coming, we grab the towel, we grab the toothpaste, we walk around. But in reality, we're standing there with our hands at the faucet for about 6 months of a lifetime. That water is running down. So that's waste. The second is, keeping this quantity of water. Most people in their homes will have a 40 to 60 gallon, tank. It's very easy math, right? You get, let's say, a 40-gallon tank times, 100 million homes. That's 400 million gallons of water that's kept hot 24/7.
Yes.
They can shower 24/7. Yet we are feeding it fuel, either gas or electric, and we're just keeping it hot. And so all we are doing is we are, putting heat into the atmosphere, running up a gas bill, paying for that gas bill, and nobody's taking a shower. So that basic technology is not matched with how we as human beings consume water. So, so I sat back and I thought, okay, how, I kind of take showers in the morning, between, let's say, 7 and 8. It would be nice if water showed up automatically at that time by learning my behavior. It would be great if the water was heated on demand, so I'm not wasting energy. And so I thought a lot about, one of my heroes is Henry Ford. As Henry Ford famously said, if I went to my customers and asked, what do you want? They would say, give me a faster horse.
Right.
So you got to kind of think about it on your own and see, if I did this solution, would it solve my customer's problem? Rather than ask, the customer will tell you the most apparent thing, but you got to really think beyond it. And so we are at Intellihot, we are a tech company. We really think outside the box. We think about what is meaningful to our customers and what can make their lives better. And we try to, develop solutions. A lot of it starts from putting ourselves in their shoes. Whether they're a business owner, a homeowner, what do they experience?
Right. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Let's go to the end user for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that we put this new form of Intellihot technology in this hotel, or let's call it an apartment building possibly. What kind of end user experience am I going to get? Is my wait time shortened for the hot water to get to my sink?
Yes. So, the benefits you would see, and this was a interesting nugget that we cracked. When it comes to sort of creature comforts and some of these basic necessities for life, a lot of it is driven by economics. People normally are not compelled to spend, let's say, more than 10% of what the current technology of the product is. Unless it is a kitchen stove or a refrigerator, something you touch and feel every day. if something operates behind the scenes, you don't feel like you should pay more for it. So technology that's generally superior and better often costs more. But what we found in this case is we were able to develop a product that was substantially less to begin with. It costs less to buy, and it's not because we are cheaper. What happens is in commercial businesses, because they want all the reliability and they never want to have a Friday night failure, they would typically double up the equipment they actually need. So if you're McDonald's, you got 2 water heaters. If you're a hotel, you got 4 water heaters. If you're a church, you got 6. I mean, they probably have church just on Sundays, 9 to 12. But they got banks and banks of the unit. So what we did is we said, look, we're going to modularize it. We're going to put in only the correct amount of equipment you need, which means right away you spend less. And when you own the equipment and operate it super efficient, we operate in like 98+%. And so it costs less to also, operate. And we have seen this day in and day out. There's a hotel just outside San Francisco Airport, 400-room hotel. Their monthly gas bill used to be $20,000. After they installed a unit, the first thing they saw, and they couldn't believe it, the gas bills dropped to $5,000 a month.
Wow.
70% reduction. And the comments from the guests were, hey, the hot water smells fresher and cleaner, and it's more consistent in temperature. So that's kind of what you hear.
Where would that come from? So are you heating the water in a way that it's not, maybe it's a different element? What's the secret there?
When you sit and cook water 24/7, it's like in a kettle. It kind of becomes a little stale. And then mixed with it, you're constantly circulating it and a lot of scale formation. Right. Most people going to hotels will say you don't drink the water from the faucet because it's accumulated bacteria. So it's a little bit stale. If you heat, it's like anything. It's like fresh food. If you heat water on demand, it just intuitively tastes better.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit about how it's learning about me as a user of the water, hot water. Is AI involved with improving the performance of your machine?
No. I would call it this, we started doing this back in 2011. Some of this is quite simple in a sense. It just observes your behavior and it starts collecting data on when you use, water. And human beings are quite predictable, it turns out. And so, so we monitor 7 days of the week and we constantly update, when you consume water. And, like in my house, you'd see, it'll say, Mondays through Friday, I consume water between 7 and 8, and then a little bit in the afternoon, and mostly, some in the evening. And so the unit would come on at that time, heat water, and then bring it right up to the faucet, anticipating that you're going to use water. And so when you open the faucet, you get water right away. So this one is not AI, it's more data analytics, where we are analyzing, collecting data and analyzing. We do have a product that we launched a couple of years ago, which actually helps modify mechanical rooms. That product is, I would say, borderline AI. Again, it's not true AI as it deployed today. It's more on the data analytics, where it analyzes how equipment is operating, and it analyzes all the data, and it says, here is how energy is being consumed. Here is how the equipment is running. If you did this, you can cut your operating cost by X%. At the same time, achieve more reliability because you're not running your equipment 24/7. So I would call that fairly advanced for this industry.
It sure sounds like it. Okay, so if we were in the business of, let's say we're a hotel business, and your organization is explaining the benefit of your technology over what else is out there right now, what are the main points that you would bring up to show those differentiating factors?
Yeah, the very first thing would be you're running a hotel, that's your business. We are going to, the first thing we do is we provide good, reliable hot water. You never ever have to worry about a Friday afternoon call because we are modular, and then we are also monitoring our equipment 24/7. We have advanced data analytics and predictability on what needs to be, serviced. And so you're never going to be surprised. First off, so reliability is high. You're going to immediately save on owning and operating costs, as much as 40% reduction, which means from day one, when you purchase our equipment, you spend less to buy and then you spend less to operate. So it's actually positive cash flow right from day one. The third and probably the most important thing for a lot of businesses, which They don't talk about it. When you heat water in a tank and you store it, it tends to grow bacteria. A bacteria called Legionella bacteria that grows on the walls because water is stagnant and it happens to be at lukewarm temperatures. And this bacteria, when you take showers, if you inhale it, you can Google it. You'll always find these Legionnaires outbreak from time to time. Most businesses have heavy-duty water management programs in the background to try to test for water. Obviously, they don't advertise it because they don't want to scare anybody.
Right.
Our technology solves that problem because we heat on demand, and there is no bacteria production in our units. And so that's a significant elimination of business risk for whether you're a hospital, a hotel, an apartment, senior living. All of them have the same issue. So that's a third benefit.
And under that first benefit you mentioned monitoring. Mm-hmm. So is the machine sending data back to headquarters where you are, and then you're monitoring all these different machines to identify early warning signals that maybe something isn't going wrong, so we can get on that and fix it beforehand?
100%. Every device we put there, goes out with connectivity as standard. We were one of the first companies to introduce. And interestingly, when we introduced connectivity back in, I think, 2012, we had to write things for the first and second generation iPad. I had people coming up to me asking, why would I need to see this on my iPad? This is so crazy.
Right.
Now it's become standard. So we monitor all the critical components in our unit. For example, if this were a car and you're a NASCAR driver and you're always making left turns, we would say after a certain number of miles, based on how many miles you're putting in, you're going to replace your left tire. And we kind of give a heads up.
That's good.
We do that for all our critical components.
Okay. So if I was to ask you to look into the future, and what do you see in the field of heating water in 10, 20, 100 years from now? Where is this technology going to take us?
So unfortunately, this technology tends to be driven more by codes and mandates. And what's happened is, the EPA has said starting 2026, all commercial water heating has to be high efficiency. So that's driving a lot of change. Intellihot makes only high efficiency heaters. So that's going to be a night and day change. There is some regulation in the works on the residential side as well, saying starting 2029, everything has to be high efficiency. So both residential and commercial are going to see more changes in the next 5 to 10 years than they have in the last 100 years. Now, electrification, energy storage is another super interesting area, and that is where we are starting to apply AI, truly. What we are finding is because of solar and wind, energy is produced at times when we don't consume it. And so you have to store energy in some form, either in batteries or in our cars or in some kind of device. People are coming up with ways of storing energy, in raising water to an elevated height or in, high pressure.
Yes.
We come up with a way, we've invented a thermal battery where you can store a lot of energy as heat. And so what we are starting to deploy are actually the equivalent of an electrical battery called thermal battery. You would put these in your house, and then it interfaces with the grid. And whenever the grid has good, cheap electricity, we buy that power, store it, and then you can use that energy for anything. You could use it to heat water. You could use it to heat, your home. It sort of becomes a universal device. What I see in the future is a very connected world where you get energy, and you store it, and then you tend to use it for different purposes. It's not specifically for water heating. It could be, to power your devices, to heat your home, to heat hot water. I think these things are going to come together. They have to.
I'm seeing what you're seeing as well. I agree with you 100%. So thank you for that. That's good. That's good insight for our audience. So if I wanted to learn more about the technology, this water heating technology that your organization works on, how can I find out more information?
So you could go to our website, intellihot.com. We have lots of videos there. We have a lot of real world installations. Chances are, if you own a hotel or you're running a hospital or you're running a stadium or a school, we have done work in your area. Real world examples that have run for many, many, many years successfully. So you could see those case studies and definitely reach out to us, contact us. We are eager to help you.
Thank you for that. And I'm excited for this because you've been in the field now long enough that you're proven, your technology's proven. You have customers out there. So you've moved from prototyping to now mass production, customer reactions, and you're continuing to do reinvestment in R&D to keep the wheels on, so to speak, to get to the future.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
If you stop innovating, you die. Right. That's the motto.
That's it. All right. Well, thanks for being on our show today. And everybody, that's another edition of Tomorrow's World Today.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Tomorrow's World Today podcast. Join us next time as we continue to explore the worlds of inspiration, creation, innovation, and production. Discover more at tomorrowsworldtoday.com, connect with us on social media at TWT Explore, and find us wherever podcasts are available.